Hey guys, in this video I want to talk about Diablo 4 Endgame and what you should actually do after you have reached level 60, which is not too difficult nowadays. It actually heavily reminds me now of Diablo 3 days, where we also used to level very quick. But yeah, once you have reached the endgame, you might be a little bit overwhelmed because there are actually bunch of different activities that you can do. So you have like the seasonal zones, you have Helltide, you have Kurast Undercity, you have Infernal Arena Hordes, of course Nightmare Dungeons, and also like this new dungeons from Season 7, the Root Hole dungeons. And you also have the Pit, so you have quite a bunch of different endgame activities in Diablo 4. And my goal today is to give you kind of a structure and to give you some recommendations what you should focus on and where you should invest most of your time in the season in the end game in order to get the most efficient and powerful character progression. Okay, so you can just become stronger and stronger. So let's just start. And the first thing, this is especially a useful tip for new players. The first thing that you should immediately do after reaching level 60 is you should unlock your Torment Tier 1 by completing a Tier 20 pit. So in order to do that, you first need to collect some Artificer Stones. So the first thing that I would do after reaching level 60 is doing a few Nightmare Dungeons. So 1 to 3 Nightmare Dungeons should be enough in order to grant you enough resources, so like those Artificer Stones. And also it's quite likely that you will already find your first glyph on the way, okay? And you need some decent glyphs in order to level them at the pit. But yeah, so this is like the first thing that I would do. Complete the tier 20 so you can unlock tier 1 difficulty. And you can always check the difficulties at the statue here. And so like you start with normal or hard, then you proceed to expert, penitent. And once you have completed pit tier 20, you can start with the end game, the actual end game of Diablo 4 with Torment Tier 1. And basically all of the good items can already drop at Torment Tier 1. So theoretically you have access to the best gear already. And from there on you can just increase the Torment difficulties, and then you will also increase the experience, the gold amount, and also the chances of getting better gear. But yeah, unlocking Torment Tier 1 is like the number one, like the first step you should do in the end game. And then you will actually reach the end game. So from now on, what I would recommend you to do is finding some decent glyphs that you want to level. So it depends on your build. So for example, right now, I'm not playing Rain of Arrows, but for example, if I would play Rain of Arrows, then I would check guide. So this is like my guide from Mobalytics here. And you should check which glyphs you need for your build, and then you start leveling these glyphs. So my recommendation is the greatest amount of character power comes with items and with unlocking Paragon. And you can see, for example, I'm right now at Paragon level 196, and I have now unlocked all of my Paragon boards. And this is very important in order to make your character stronger. So you can see, for example, my last board, my 5th board, gives me this No Witness legendary node, which gives me a damage bonus of 60%. So this node alone is worth like 2 offensive aspects on the rogue class. So yeah, it's very powerful unlocking all of this Paragon boards and nodes and glyphs. So the first thing that I would do is I would focus on the pit and unlocking my 5 Paragon boards and leveling my 5 glyphs to at least level 46. Because once you have leveled them at 46, you will also unlock the legendary bonus power from the glyphs. So this is typically some bonus damage. And yeah, this is quite important because if you have 5 glyphs and each of them give you some amount of damage, so 5 to 10% more damage, then suddenly your character becomes 50% more powerful. So this is like the number one step that I would do. And this should be your focus in the first 10 hours, let's say. Once you have reached the point where you have leveled 5 glyphs, so the glyphs that you need for your build, you have leveled them at least level 46, and you have unlocked your 5 boards, so this is typically somewhere around level 200. then you should start switching from the pit to some other endgame activities. And for that reason, I should teleport now to the Tree of Whispers, because this is the main location this season. Season 7 is themed around the witch powers and also the whispers, and the whispers, Tree of Whispers, sorry. So yeah, and so after you have finished your pit grind and your paragon grind, you should switch to the new seasonal zones. And the reason for this is the most important or the greatest amount of power which comes beside items and paragon. And by the way, you should never care too much about items, because items can basically drop everywhere, so they can also drop in the pit. Of course, there are some activities where it's more likely to get better gear more fast. You should also do the world bosses from time to time, because they also tend to drop some very nice stuff, very nice gear. But you should not overthink this topic, and gear can basically drop everywhere all the time. And it's just like a natural progression curve where you will find very good gear on the way. So you can see, for example, here I have like 80% of my gear is ancestral gear already. And I have basically done nothing besides the pit so far. So don't care about items too much. But yeah, so besides items and paragon progression, the next big part of your character power will come from the new Witchcrafts, which is this seasonal theme in Season 7. And these Witchcrafts on their own are kinda alright, they're cool. You have some interesting effects here that you can use. Soul Harvest, for example, very powerful effect. But the true potential of Witchcraft powers will be unlocked once you have also unlocked the new occult gems. So you can get these occult gems at this NPC here called Jelena. So here you can see this occult library, and your goal should be to craft these powerful occult gems. So again, if you're playing with a guide, you should just check your guide. So for example, if you want to play my Rain of Arrows build at Mobalytics, then you will check with the Witchcraft powers here, and here you can also see, okay, we have 3 gems, Voice of the Stars, Friends of the Bog and Wicked Pact, and especially the first 2, Voice of the Stars and Friend of the Bog, are very powerful occult gems. So you want these occult gems also as quick as possible, but the problem here is they are very difficult to get. So in order to craft one legendary occult gem, like this one here, Friend of the Bog, you can see that you will need 2 magic gems and 1 rare gem. And also you will need 100,000 diamond fragments. And so we can take a look how we can actually get the magic gems here. So Wicked Pact, for example, and here you can see, okay, we need a head, we need 1000 Restless Rot, and we need amethyst fragments. So this is not too easy to get, and for that reason I can recommend you, once you have reached your Paragon level 200 or your 5 Paragon boards and your glyphs, you should immediately swap over to this new seasonal zones, where you can actually farm Restless Rot. You will also complete Whispers in the zone, so the Whispers will also give you this amethyst fragments and diamond fragments and skull fragments and all that stuff. So you basically need a lot of resources in order to craft occult gems and also level Witchcraft powers. Also leveling up is quite expensive. I only managed to level up 1 ability so far, which is Soul Harvest. But here you can also see that it costs you some amount of this new resource to level them up. So the new zones are very important, and I expect that you will spend most of your time in this season in these new zones. I think most players will actually like this, because it's a good feeling in a zone. There's always some kind of action going on, a lot of monster density most of the time. And so yeah, I recommend you to spend most of your time in these zones. Once, or at least as long as you don't have any of the new occult gems and you want to also level up your powers here. And I would not do anything besides this. Of course, it depends on the build. If your build needs some important uniques, for example here for Rain of Arrows, You also want some mythic uniques if possible at some point, and you have some regular uniques. So if you have some uniques that you require for the build to function, you should of course also focus on this first. So you should also farm some Uber bosses. And yeah, just find the uniques that you need for this build. But besides that, I would not focus on anything else actually. Just the Witchcraft powers, just because they're so powerful. And also Masterworking, for example. Here you can see I only have Masterworked like my weapon to 8. My both offhand weapons only 4 out of 12. And I also have Masterworked Fist of Fate to 8. But besides that, I did nothing. And I'm already at Torment Tier 3. And with my build, so I'm playing Alchemist Dance of Knives right now. You can also find this build in Mobalytics. I can link it also down in the description. So with my build, I don't need too much stuff here going on with Masterworking, let's say. And it's already enough to farm Torment Tier 3. And Torment Tier 3, for example, is also just fine for farming the zones here. I don't feel like I need Torment Tier 4 for that. And you can also do this in Torment Tier 1 or 2, it's no problem. So I would not focus too much on Masterworking or other stuff, also like Helltide, completely useless this season. Nightmare Dungeons, I would only do them in the beginning. And also Kurast Undercity, not really worth it in my opinion right now. The new dungeons also not really worth it. You could also do some Infernal Hordes from time to time, because they also drop a bunch of fragments, like jewelry fragments. So this is pretty cool. They also dropped some amount of Masterwork materials, so maybe you can do a bunch of them in the beginning to get your first Masterworks, but I would not focus too much on that before I have unlocked the Occult Gems and my Witch powers. So yeah, I hope I did not forget anything important here. This is just my recommendation for the endgame right now in Diablo 4, and what you should do, what you should focus on. And yeah, I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I will read them as usual and try to answer as many as possible. So yeah, I hope this helped you, and I wish you guys a nice day, and I see you in the next video. Bye bye.